It's January 12th, 2025. Today, as we're going to be talking about, is Bitcoin worse than the Tulip Mania bubble? Let's get straight into it. Start off as Bitcoin is worse than Tulip Mania. I'm going to give you an absolute yes. And I'm going to go into details of why I believe that. But before I get into it, if you like this content, don't like this content, please share, please subscribe, please like, please dislike. And the reason why is that when this prediction comes true, I want you to come back and make sure you're able to refer to my video and some of my other videos that I'm calling on the stock market bubble that we having. And what's more important, that when I get ready to go back heavily into the market, because I believe the market is undervalued, I think you're going to want to know. So we found a couple articles that we're going to talk about comparing Tulip Mania to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in itself. I do got to say that I believe that the Bitcoin and some of these cryptocurrencies, the technology that's underneath them, blockchain, I believe that that's going to be very, very successful in the future. It's probably going to help with transactions. I'm just not a believer in Bitcoin, and I'm not a believer in some of these other cryptocurrencies. They're basically because I don't believe that they do anything. We're going to start off by just giving you a familiarize you with what the Tulip Mania was. The bubble reached its height in Holland during 1633 to 37. Before 1637, Holland's tulips trade had been restricted to professional growers and experts. And it's important to understand, some people don't notice, it wasn't so much the tulips themselves, it was the bulbs that was underneath it. And back then, it took about 9 years for it to be able to grow. And for it to be able to grow, so that, and sometimes they wouldn't make it, sometimes the bulbs wouldn't make it, sometimes they would. But it was mainly wealthy people buying these, just the same way they buy art. I mean, that's just what it was at the time, and tulips became a very important asset for rich people to basically to be able to show their wealth. So, but back to the article, but the steady rise in prices tempted many ordinary, middle class, and poor families to speculate in the tulip market. Homes, estates, and industries were mortgaged so that the bulbs could be bought for resale at higher prices. And that's one of the main things about this is that just like with cryptocurrencies, it's that, is someone going to come along and pay a higher price for you? Sales and resales were made many times over without the bulbs ever leaving the ground, and rare varieties of bulbs sold at hundreds of dollars. And back then, some tulips was going at prices higher than even a house would sell for. The crash came early in 1637, when doubts arose as to whether prices could continue to increase. Almost overnight, the price structure of the tulips collapsed, sweeping away fortunes and leaving behind financial ruin for many ordinary Dutch families. There's a lot of articles out there that say it wasn't as bad to the Dutch families as it was, but some of those wealthy people that paid a lot of money for a tulip, more than likely they lost a lot of money. The tulip craze was an early example of the greater food theory, the willingness to buy an asset not because of fundamental value, but because of the belief that someone else is likely to pay an even higher price than you did. And that's exactly what cryptocurrency is. That's exactly what Bitcoin is. And we're going to get into it in this article that I found. But I believe that to so that you can understand the title, of this podcast, is that I believe that Tulip Mania Bitcoin is worse than Tulip Mania. At least at the end of the Tulip Mania, you did have a tulip. You did have a bulb that you was allowed to grow. Tulips are still around today. I mean, obviously they're not selling for the prices of a home, but they're still around. People had tulips. There's tulip farmers, and that was one of the big problems with tulips, is that some farmers stopped growing other items and started growing tulips, which brought more tulips to the market. And obviously, if you have an oversupply for more buyers, then you're going to have a price correction. But you do have a bulb. I believe with Bitcoin, you're not going to have anything at the end of the day. Bitcoin doesn't do nothing. So I'm going to go over this article that I found, written by Anton Hellman, And I think he really broke Bitcoin really down, unlike most people do. And I think a lot of the reasons, and one of the reasons that I hesitated on making this video, you really don't want to be attacked by the Bitcoin crowd out there. They're real sensitive to Bitcoin, but I'm putting this out for education, and maybe someone may realize the realization of Bitcoin. So I'm going to read through this article and then comment. There are some things in investment world that are so dumb that it's painful to even begin trying to explain why. By far, the best example here is Bitcoin and almost all things crypto. Um, as a queen, as the queen of crypto, Bitcoin briefly exceeded $107,000 in December, and for all I know, it could go dramatically higher in the short run. Nobody I know has any idea what they could use Bitcoin for in the real world, but the only reason they buy Bitcoin is they think it will go up in value. Here go again, the greater food value. Um, Tulip Mania without the tulip. Like I said, you did at least have a tulip. Eventually, Bitcoin and similar cryptos will hit their intrinsic value, which is exactly zero. And I would like to argue that um, as you know, MicroStrategy, I think he believed that Bitcoin is going to go to 23 million. I don't know how he come up with that number, but that's the number that he uses. You know, I've made several videos about MicroStrategy, and I believe MicroStrategy is going to be the queen of Bitcoin, and it's going to be the, and not the reason that they collapse, but MicroStrategy will collapse because of Bitcoin. So my argument is I believe that Bitcoin will be better off at $1. It could go to $1 million, but it'd be better off as $1. Bitcoin doesn't do anything, as he said in this article. It doesn't do anything, but it helps out criminals. You know, if you want to buy, let's say you want to buy Bitcoin in dollars, and then later on transfer it to the euro, and you want to just sell your Bitcoin in the euro. That's something that you could do if you sending money over to Europe, and you want to send it in a secure way. Because like I said, the blockchain underneath it is a real thing. It's a real thing. So if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But it doesn't do anything else. Just like a MicroStrategy buying up all this Bitcoin and putting it on a balance sheet. If Bitcoin is selling at $1 or selling at $1 million, it'll create value for MicroStrategy if it's at $1 million, because right now they're paying about $95,000 for some of the coins that they're purchasing, and they did purchase some a lot earlier. But if Bitcoin was selling at $1 and not $1 million, I think you could have a lot more transactions, you know, in stores and stuff like that if it's $1 for dollar. And then we could really take advantage of that blockchain that's underneath Bitcoin. But as of right now, it doesn't do anything. You know, what it's selling at, let's say I think it's at 103,000 today, something like that. What does that do? What does it mean? What are you going to do with it? There's only one thing that you can do, and that is the greater food theory, is hope that somebody come along and pay more. And with MicroStrategy buying up a lot of it, well, let's say if they get up to half all the Bitcoin out there, now they would have pushed the price up, but what's going to happen? And they say, well, we're not going to sell any, and now you got let's say you got more sellers than buyers out there. Once they're done buying, where's the price going to go? Is Bitcoin going to collapse after that? The unlimited supply of nothing. Think about it. What kind of lunacy is it that when you pay real money for a few exclusive numbers in a computer, there's no priority value here, no certainty. I mean, and certainly no scarcity. Even though the Bitcoin people say they're going to stop at 21 million Bitcoins, which is going to cause scarcity. I don't believe that, because it doesn't do anything. You can divide a Bitcoin into many parts as you want, and each of those parts could perform the same accounting function as a full Bitcoin itself. And here's an argument that they hasn't proposed yet that I don't like that he put on here. And if there is not good, and if that is not good enough, just create a Bitcoin 2, a Bitcoin 3, a Bitcoin, etc., and Bitcoin 4, etc. That means there isn't a limited supply of Bitcoin. There are already over 20,000 crypto scams, and you create an infinite number of those. Bitcoin and crypto in general is an unlimited supply of nothing. I don't heard that there's between 2,900 to 29,000 different type of cryptocurrencies out there. We certainly know all of them are not going to make it. Most of them are going to go to zero, depending on what the new president coming in, what he decides to do with Bitcoin and what part it could play in the U.S. government that could give it some strength and some long term. If the federal government is going to hold Bitcoin as one time as they held as they held gold, but I don't believe that they're going to pin the dollar or how much money can be produced from the Federal Reserve based on how much Bitcoin. So that eliminates the Bitcoin to gold. I don't believe Bitcoin is a store of value. I mean, what is it storing? It's not storing anything. So and I like how he did this: digital gold, digital stake. Crypto or Bitcoin is not digital gold any more than a digital stake is stake. Digital stake is a Farmville product, which is to say it is worthless in the real world. You can feed the digital stake to your digital cow. So and what this reminds me of is NFTs. I used to talk with my sons and they used to tell me NFTs this, NFTs that. I remember when the point guard Curry paid like $1 million for an NFT. And what's the value of it now? I don't see NFTs anywhere. I don't see no more NFT art. I don't see no more NFT, little things that go on your Twitter. I don't see NFTs in the metaverse anymore. Where land and all. I don't see any of that. I don't see any of that. It digital is digital. It's sitting on some server somewhere. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything at all. So I like the way he put that in his article. Now he's really bold. He only wrote this on December 20th, 2024. I'm surprised. I'm surprised he wasn't being really attacked to say that you believe that cryptocurrency is going to zero. I also like the way he say comparing Bitcoin. Yes, it is like selling fresh water in a bottle without the bottle. Digital gold, digital stake equals no gold, no stake. I like how he said that. And now he did put an exception in here that I do agree with. I said almost all cryptos above. There are some exceptions, although they are in the minority. If a crypto is 100% backed by something, it is legit and worth exactly that. Let's say the crypto is issued where one token equals 1 gram of gold in a vault, 1 for 1, then that's legit. And I agree with that. Sayer, the chairman of MicroStrategy, he talks about how we really don't need the New York Stock Exchange and we really don't need the NASDAQ, that one day you should be able to trade Apple shares, but that's over the blockchain. That's not cryptocurrency. I think everything should be able to trade over the block trade, and that's probably over the blockchain, and that's probably the future. But this cryptocurrency is not, because it's nothing. It does nothing. There is no, you hear a lot about intrinsic value. That's basically because cryptocurrency doesn't produce anything. It doesn't produce anything. It doesn't have a dividend. It doesn't have a interest yield, even though MicroStrategy chairman try to tell you that it does. It doesn't. It doesn't produce any capital. You basically are holding it and you hope someone comes along and pay a higher price, which is, by the way, is the definition of speculation. And I made this video because I want everybody out there. There's a lot of people, though, that made a lot of money. So I'm not hating on them. There's a lot of people that made a lot of money in crypto. I'm not going to hate on them. But I hope that they're smart enough, which is rare, that they're able to get out before it crashes. And when there's people that are not willing to pay a higher price than what you paid. So it may go to $1 million. I don't know. All I know is I don't want to be on the fall coming down. Like I said, please subscribe, please like, please dislike, please share. Because as I said, I want this video on the record. So when the bubble does burst, I want you to be able to come back, find this video, and say, wow, this guy was on point of what he was talking about. Good luck investing. Have a good 2025. We out.